Morning. Today I wanted to talk about this great post from New World Notes. I'll put the link in the description. And it's basically talking about Horizon Worlds and some of the challenges they're facing. Now, you've always got to be careful with these kind of arguments, or rather articles, because obviously a lot of sources, when people have left companies and stuff, they've left for a reason, right? The people who still believe in the mission are at the company and they're still working on it and everything. So that's an important slice of this pie, because yeah, if they believed in it, they would still be there. So you have to always take that into consideration. So Meta's doing a very difficult thing in trying to build Horizons. But I think one of the biggest things, and this article touches on it a bit, is they've kind of jumped into it, scaled up very fast, and they've not really taken all the knowledge from things like Second Life, things like VR chat, but also like other spaces like Mozilla hubs and stuff. I think there hasn't been enough learning from those spaces, and this makes a very good point of like, instead of throwing tons of people at it, there's a few really talented engineers that Meta has that if they were sort of left alone and given time to cook, as a small team, they probably would produce something pretty awesome. This I found really interesting though. So basically, there's a requirement internally that they've got a dog food that's try out Meta Horizons, which is a very sensible requirement. Definitely should do it. But people were automating their dog fooding. And I mean, if you don't see that as a crisis signal, I think that's like really bad. You know, again, part of this is the problem of, are you building it for the right crowd? Are you building it for the right audience? But yeah, if people are going to that extent to automate their dog fooding, I think that also just speaks to trouble with company culture stuff. Here's the point they make about, there are about 15 people in hardware that can make the entire project again in a day, who I stand by, who deserve all the money and things coming to them. Yeah. So there are clearly people there who know what they're doing, probably really know the space well, are complete experts, but it just sounds like quite a bit. And again, I say, the people who are, those 15 people who are still working there, maybe some of them is just there for the money, but a lot of them will still believe in the mission. They might see a way through the cloud. So you've always got to take these articles with that little grain of salt, or maybe that big heaping of salt. But it's still very interesting, and it tracks. There is some stuff in here that I know to be bullshit, like VR tends to make over half the population nauseous. It's a total bullshit number. I know from internal research that Sony did, the number of people who actually have biological issues with VR is somewhere around the 1 or 2%, assuming the VR experience is well tuned and stuff. There are just some people who will never be able to use VR. There are some people in my community who can't even play 3D first-person shooter games on flat screen, right? There's a range. There are just some people who have concrete stomachs and can handle a lot. I'm one of those people. And then we do also know that the earlier you're introduced, there's a lot of adaptation factors. I think there is a good reason why it's taken off with kids so much, and why people are aging into VR. I do think that's part of it. But yeah, so when I see things like that, it does make me question the rest of the article. Yeah, as I say, bell curve with all things, but it's nowhere near that bad. That is linking to a study. I need to read the study, but yeah, as I say, we did some studies at Sony, and the numbers weren't nearly that bad. I kind of want to rabbit hole on that right now. I'm not going to rabbit hole on that right now because I just want to get this quick video out talking about this. But yeah, I mean, I'm a huge believer in VR chat. This person or this website is clearly Second Life pilled, as you can see from all the Second Life stuff. Second Life is really interesting, very established. I used Second Life a lot back in the day. Second Life is kind of stagnant, and has been for a while. There is interesting technical stuff about Second Life. It's a different discussion. It's a very vibrant community. They'll keep on going because communities are communities. But they tried to adapt, and they didn't really adapt to VR very well. The Sansar project is a whole other thing. There's a lot of misreporting. It's a good article. The other one that, here we go. They floundered on making it user engaging. I made it playing. There are kids who were their dad's quests at work. While Boz was screaming at everyone internal, "Kids, do not play this game. Stop saying that. No one is allowed to perpetuate this anymore." I mean, that's not a bad thing. I mean, I know why it's a bad thing for Meta. Horizon Worlds is predominantly kids playing because VR is predominantly kids. That's not a bad thing. People age into it. Like, it's a new medium. And if the company had more longevity in their, if they weren't burning this huge pile of money, they would be interested in, getting that market, growing that market over time, nurturing it. But the reality is that those kids aren't going to be worth enough money in the short term. And if Meta acknowledges this generational demographic situation I'm talking about, it devalues the VR market massively in the short term. Massively. And I think it gives a more realistic view on the market. It gives a more optimistic view on the market long term. But in the short term, it massively devalues. And this is like, capitalism 101 and growth and stocks and everything. So, I think, I understand why they're pushing back. But, yeah. Because, Second Life, when Second Life started, Second Life was predominantly young people. It was predominantly teenagers. But people forget that Second Life started more than 20 years ago now. When did Second Life start? I'm curious on the year now. So a quick Google. Second Life launch. I want to say it was... I want to say that it was really 2003. Yeah, 22 years, motherfuckers. 22 years. Okay, I was older when I started playing Second Life. I was in university. But, I do remember that there was definitely a lot of teens. There was definitely a lot of teens in Second Life. Really dominated. Yeah. But also, the internet was a very different space then. It was a lot more frontier-based. A lot more, we hadn't really brought on... by 2002, we brought on, like, most of the world, but it was still in the mindset of frontier. The internet wasn't 5 web pages. But yeah, anyway, I wanted to, as you can see, I'm a little bit burnt out, a little bit sick. So this is a bit of a low-effort video. Sorry about that. But I wanted to bring this to the fore and talk about it for a sec. And I hope you found it interesting as I did. Anyway, I'll get back to some more stuff. Let me know in the comments. And again, grain of salt, people. The true believers are probably still there. Though I'll probably still just be in VR chat.